The United States is sounding the alarm over the increasingly intertwined relationship between China, North Korea, and Russia. This emerging alliance is causing significant concern in Washington and beyond. This alliance, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine as its focal point, has sent shockwaves through the international community. The conflict in Ukraine has become a central issue, drawing in various global powers and reshaping alliances. The US and its Western allies warn of the dangerous precedent this sets in global geopolitics. They argue that such alliances could embolden other nations to act aggressively, destabilizing regions around the world. Significant military and economic support from China and North Korea to Russia has undermined Western sanctions. This support includes advanced weaponry, financial aid, and other resources that bolster Russia's war efforts. The Biden administration accuses both nations of undermining the rules-based international order. They stress that these actions violate international norms and threaten global stability. The US has threatened secondary sanctions against any country materially assisting Russia's war effort. These sanctions aim to cut off financial and material support, making it harder for Russia to sustain its military operations. The stakes are high, as the decisions made today will have far-reaching consequences for international security. The international community watches closely, aware that the outcomes of these alliances and conflicts will shape the future geopolitical landscape. China's stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict has been a delicate balancing act. While publicly maintaining neutrality, Beijing has deepened its economic and diplomatic ties with Moscow. China is now Russia's largest oil buyer, providing Moscow with a much-needed source of revenue. Chinese companies have filled the void left by Western businesses, providing Moscow with critical goods and technology. Beijing has refused to condemn Russia's invasion, instead blaming NATO expansion and Western provocation. China's support for Russia is driven by shared geopolitical interests and economic pragmatism. North Korea's involvement in the Ukraine conflict, while less substantial than China's, is still concerning. Reports have surfaced of North Korea supplying Russia with artillery shells and rockets. The Biden administration accuses North Korea of attempting to conceal these arms transfers. North Korea's motivations include strengthening ties with Russia and securing economic and military assistance. Pyongyang likely views the conflict as a distraction for the US, giving it more leeway to pursue its own nuclear and missile programs. North Korea's involvement adds complexity to an already volatile situation. It underscores the interconnected nature of global security challenges. The international community has largely condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Western nations have imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia, targeting its financial system and key industries. These sanctions aim to cripple the Russian economy and pressure Putin to end the war. However, the effectiveness of these sanctions is limited by the support Russia receives from China and other countries. Many countries have provided Ukraine with humanitarian aid and military assistance. The global response to the Ukraine conflict highlights deep divisions within the international community. There is no clear consensus on how to end the conflict or address the underlying geopolitical tensions. The war in Ukraine has had a profound impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains and driving up energy prices. The conflict has exposed the vulnerabilities of relying on a limited number of suppliers for essential goods. Sanctions on Russia have pushed its economy into recession, but have also contributed to rising energy prices globally. The war has disrupted global supply chains, particularly for wheat, fertilizer, and other agricultural products. This has had a devastating impact on developing countries that rely on these imports. The economic fallout from the war is likely to continue, with far-reaching consequences for global growth and food security. One of the most pressing concerns surrounding the Ukraine conflict is the risk of escalation. The situation remains volatile, with tensions running high on all sides. The involvement of major powers like China and the US raises the stakes, increasing the potential for miscalculation. Their strategic interests and alliances could lead to unintended consequences, making the conflict even more complex. The use of nuclear weapons, while unlikely, remains a terrifying possibility. The mere presence of these weapons adds a layer of danger that cannot be ignored. Russia's nuclear doctrine allows for the use of nuclear weapons in response to a conventional attack, threatening the Russian state. This policy adds a chilling dimension to the conflict, making diplomatic solutions even more urgent. Another concern is the potential for the conflict to spill over into neighboring countries. Such a scenario could destabilize the entire region, leading to a broader humanitarian crisis. NATO has reinforced its presence in Eastern Europe, raising concerns about accidental clashes with Russian forces. These military maneuvers increase the risk of misunderstandings and unintended engagements. The international community must work to manage the risks of escalation and prevent the conflict from spiraling out of control. Diplomatic efforts, peace talks, and international cooperation are essential to mitigate these risks and find a peaceful resolution. The path to peace in Ukraine remains elusive, but diplomatic efforts continue. Several rounds of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine have failed to produce a breakthrough. The US and its allies provide support for Ukraine while avoiding direct military confrontation with Russia. The Biden administration has ruled out sending US troops but has provided billions in military and humanitarian assistance. The international community must pursue all diplomatic avenues to end the conflict. A lasting peace will require addressing the security concerns of all sides and a commitment to dialogue and diplomacy. The war in Ukraine has shattered the post-Cold War security order in Europe, creating a ripple effect that has been felt across the globe. This conflict has not only destabilized the region, but has also raised questions about the future of international alliances and the effectiveness of current security frameworks. The conflict highlights the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of conflict in the 21st century. It serves as a stark reminder that peace is not a given, but something that must be actively maintained and protected through constant vigilance and cooperation. The rise of China as a global power poses a significant challenge to the existing world order. As China continues to expand its influence both economically and militarily, it disrupts the balance of power that has been in place for decades. China's growing economic and military might increases the potential for competition and conflict. This growth has led to increased tensions not only in the Asia-Pacific region but also on a global scale, affecting international trade and diplomatic relations. The proliferation of nuclear weapons remains a major threat to global security. As more nations seek to develop or acquire nuclear capabilities, the risk of a catastrophic event increases, making disarmament and non-proliferation efforts more critical than ever. The war in Ukraine is a reminder of the importance of international cooperation and a rules-based order. It underscores the need for nations to work together to uphold international laws and norms that promote peace and stability. The international community must work together to address the root causes of conflict and promote dialogue and diplomacy. By fostering understanding and cooperation, we can build a more secure and peaceful world for future generations.